Well, hello everybody. It's Jet888. It is August the 7th, so 8/7. Thought of the moment: cynicism is an unpleasant way of saying the truth. Isn't that sad? Lillian Hellman. Today I'm just going to go through a bunch of words and unscrambling some words and let people have a little bit different of a perspective on some of the things I've been coming up with and seeing. I just find them somewhat interesting. Anyhow, I just wanted to show you some things that I'm running across today. Now this is just my first little stop of the morning regarding Federal Communications Commission, and I think I ran over this document before, but I'll probably go into it again later a little bit more. But I thought that this was interesting. Evaluating compliance with FCC guidelines for human exposure to radio frequency electromagnetic fields. But I'm just going to go, love the logo. I'm just going to go into the word compliance real quickly. So I just thought this was kind of funny. You can just take the anagram to compliance, and it's conceal imp. So imp is a small mischievous devil, or it says sprite, but I think they mean the word spirit. Synonyms is demon, little devil, fiend. Okay. So it says here the imp. An imp is a European mythological being similar to a fairy or demon, frequently described in folklore and superstition. The word may perhaps derive from the term imp, used to denote a young grafted tree. Maybe the tree that little Eve ate off of, who knows? But so anyhow, imp, a small mischievous devil. Isn't that funny how they use sprite? Huh. Okay. It's just funny how when you twist some words around, what you come up with. Well, maybe the word sprite is what they're meaning, because I see the definition of imp by the Free Dictionary. Demon, devil, sprite. He sees the devil as a little imp with horns. With horns. Do any of you remember that video I did with the United States Space Force logo, the Department of Air Force? Do you remember? I covered this a little bit, but when you turn things upside down, look, those have little horns. So I think that was kind of interesting. This little Baphomet has little horns. Starfleet, when you switch this word around, Starfleet, altar fest. You know, altar, like where they sacrifice things. And that's weird. I just saw this logo too. The U.S. Air Force. That looks like it could have little horns. Look at that logo. This is part of the document for the weather programs. The Electronic Systems Center for the Air Force. Weather programs. You know that the star, basically it's a pentagram. It has 5 points. Something else I kind of found I thought was interesting. Hey, I wanted to, before I get into the pentagram thing, that star, the 5-pointed thing, regarding that word imp, this just reminded me a little bit. So it says in the bottom there, the word may perhaps derive from the term YMPE, used to denote a young grafted tree. Now the fruit well, I'll tell you later, the fruit that Eve ate from, but the forbidden fruit is a name given to the fruit growing in the Garden of Eden, which God commands mankind not to eat. in the biblical narrative, Adam and Eve eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge. They don't want us to know about knowledge. That's interesting. Of good and evil, and are exiled from Eden. So as a metaphor outside the Abrahamic religions, the phrase typically refers to any indulgence or pleasure that is considered illegal or immoral. So that naughty Eve. So this is interesting. So I just see this Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve, according to the creation myth of the Abrahamic religions, where the first man and woman, they are central to the belief that humanity is in essence a single family, with everyone descended from a single pair of original ancestors. Okay, so she's picking from that tree. But anyhow, isn't that interesting how, well, creation myth. Okay, you guys, I just want to show you this tree in my yard. It's called a quince tree, and I want to share with you just a little bit of information I found it. And sorry about the skipping. I just when I have to turn my camera off because it gets so hot, and then I might kind of forget exactly where I was when I left off. But I wanted to share this tree with you, the quince, and here's a fruit. It's an unripe fruit right now. It's still young. Takes a while to mature. But this fruit specifically, I think, is the biblical fruit of the Garden of Eden, supposedly, that Eve ate off of. Now this is a young quince. This is just happened to be one little branch that I cut from the mother tree and stuck it in the ground, and now it's growing. But this is the quince tree that I think is the reference to the biblical apple, and I'll tell you why. Those are goji berries, little orange things. But here, stay with me. Okay, now remember, this video is not for children. So anyhow, here's an artwork of Adam and Eve. Here they're holding, wow, Adam's holding, look at that fruit he's holding. So, those aren't fig leaves, are they? That's a fig leaf. See what they're holding? Here's that quince I showed you earlier, the baby quince. Okay, so these are the three. This is an apple tree branch. This is a quince branch, and that's a pomegranate branch. And those are fig branches. So what does that look like? So anyhow, the reason why I'm showing you, oh, look at them. So I was showing you this because that apple, Easton's Bible Dictionary basically says, Hebrews tabab, meaning fragrance, probably the apricot or the quince is intended by the word as the Palestinians. So because it was too hot for the growth of apples, so it says there's nothing about the tree of knowledge, but I almost think they're working too hard to make it look like the quince wasn't the tree. And the reason why I want to sort of push this is because I want to show you this. So the quince is, I don't even know how to say that, Aegil marmelos. So this is the quince, and look at that, the Baal. So why would they name that tree, the quince tree, that Baal is demon? Is a demon described in demonological grimoires, such as Lesser Key of Solomon. Sorry about this picture, my gosh. Anyhow, it's described as a hoarsely voiced king with the power to make men invisible and ruling over 60 legions of demons. So why does a quince have the name Baal associated to it? Oh, I forgot to add the apple of the eye. That's interesting, huh? Remember the eye? All-seeing eye. So the quince is the soul member of the genus. So soul, remember they could spell it S-O-U-L because they play on our words. In the family of Rosaceae, which also contains apples and pears. And here's a picture of it. And remember, this is the scientific name. I don't even know how to pronounce that. And when you look at the anagram of this quince, the scientific name of the quince, these are the first things that come up. A glamour mealy, or a glamours mealies. So a glamour mealies, malaise. Alright, so here's how it sounds.
Melee.
Melee. And a confused fight, skirmish, or scuffle. A confused mass of people. In glamour. I don't know if you guys ever remember, I mentioned True Blood quite a bit, and there are a bunch of vampires and so many parables they show us in this little HBO series. But this says glamour is a supernatural form of mental compulsion or influence that is specific to vampires. Glamoring is similar to hypnosis, and while all vampires have this power, it needs to be taught. So furthermore, vampires can influence the minds of almost every humanoid species, including humans, shapeshifters, whatever. So it talks about this. True Blood always covers glamoring. And this just on True Blood says, regular humans are very susceptible to glamoring, so much so that more than one human can be glamored simultaneously by the same vampire. And it says, glamoring in True Blood is always accompanied by a distinctive leitmotif. So I looked up what leitmotif was, and it shows, it comes up with an owl on top of a, looks like a book for writing songs. So here's the picture it shows. And it talks about concert of birds. So 1629, 1630, it says, in the composition, an owl on a branch directs a chorus of 15 other types of birds while holding a score between its feet. Such images of different species of birds perch on trees and trunks, sometimes with musical scores, were known as concert of birds, were popularized by the Flemish. Let's see, what else? So this is interesting too. So this is a painting, belongs to Philadelphia, Rubens, and they show this bird tearing at a person. It's called the Furies. Wow, interesting. So Baal is demon-described demonological grimoires such as the Lesser Key of Solomon. So in this article, when it talks about the apple, and it talks about the good and evil, but they're trying to also really pull yourselves away from, they're trying to separate that there was no fruit or anything that shows that there is no tree of knowledge. But it does talk and refer about the apple of the eye. Again, the so-called apple of Sodom. Anything round like an apple as an apple of gold. And remember, they referred to the quince as a golden apple, but they talk again about the apple of the eye. Talking about Israel. And they bring up Deuteronomy too, which is where we're going to go. Okay, so now as I was just getting ready to discuss this with you guys, my screen went totally blank, and now all my notes for what I was specifically going to talk about are gone. So here we're looking at Deuteronomy. I'm going to have to just wing it now. So weird. Okay, so and this is in the speeches of Moses here that we're covering. And I'm looking at so many interesting words here that they kind of like don't look like normal words or make sense, but you know, they're nouns or whatever. And when I go and look them up, like, I mean, just the Moab, that can mean a mob, M-O-B, so a mob. And ours also could be the chemical thing for argon. This was weird too, though, the Valley of Yared. So the Vale of Yared, or Yared, overlaid Faye. And interesting, when you go to look at images of overlaid, you get a church. And then you see a little school with a little apple with worms coming out of it. It's interesting. But overlaid is, so the archaic is to overburden or overload. And Fae is plain having magical powers, like little fairies, supernatural being. Cast as a Fae is a young woman who charms all the men in town. That's interesting. So that's kind of glamoring. And remember, you guys, I mentioned a while ago about the ever living. That's the name that God wanted people to refer to him by. And when you kind of unscramble that word too, ever living, never vigil, or V, evil reign. And it's interesting because there's always a movie or something to go with these words. Every time I've looked, there's either bands by the name of it or a movie or a series. So again, they're showing everything in parables. So in here we're looking at the definition: reign, be supreme, prevail, predominate, hold sway, be right. It also talks about the period during which a sovereign occupies the throne. And we have that evil reign going on with the ever-living. And then this Farrar Fenton Deuteronomy, which actually that has lots of, you can make lots of money words related to that, but speech of Moses, there's the Moab, the mob. Let's see, and he talks about, so he cuts out, so look at on this Bible. So you go from 9 to 13, and he talks about, there's a footnote there. So 10 to 13 are an ancient editor's notes, not part of the text of Moses. It was probably added by Ezra. So we can look at Ezra, and we can have a little anagram fun and look at the word raise. And look at that, we got another little movie called Raise. They always have a movie. And the definition of raise is raise. Definition is to destroy to the ground, demolish. And that's funny. So they've got this little Raise movie. It's a horror action film, focuses on 2 abducted women and 50 other women who are forced to fight each other using their bare hands. So here's another word, and I'm not going to read these things to you. I'm just hitting on the words. So Mount Seir, when you look at that, Mount Seir can be SS Minotaur. And the SS, abbreviation of Schultz Staffel. Remember that name, Schultz. Protective echelon, the black uniformed elite cops, and self-described political soldiers of the Nazi Party. So SS, Whoops, and there's minotaurs right there. Look at those horns. Oh, that must be a movie too, but here you go. So minotaur, for generations the village youth were stolen from their families and delivered to sacrifice, or delivered as sacrifice to a mythical beast, the minotaur that dwells beneath the great palace. That's interesting little design there. What is going on in there? It looks like a sacrifice. So I'm just going to really... Anyhow, it's talking about, so the Vale of Yered, including the period of March between Kadesh and Barnea. Barnea is, could be in Arab. Until the time you crossed the Vale of Yered, it was 38 years, until all the generation of fighting men belonged to the camp were dead, as the ever-living threatened them. For the hand of the ever-living was against them to destroy them out of the camp until they perished. Okay, but sorry, so I'm jumping down this footnote. Sorry about all the skipping all over the place. It was probably added by Ezra, remember Reyes, when he edited the Pentateuch? Pentateuch. Look at that. Let's look at that word. There's Pentateuch. I don't even know if I'm saying that. Pentateuch. Unteach pet. You know how they're never telling us the truth. They change history and everything. And that's an interesting word. And look at those words. Pentagon, nonage pet. So nonage, the period of immaturity or youth. So nonage, infancy or minority. Lack of requisite legal age. Nonage entails various contractual disabilities and is a ground for annulment in some jurisdictions. Remember, their words, even though they're spelled different, have different or similar meanings. They're leading you to the parables, so you have to think and you have to look a little bit beyond what the real spellings are. Okay, so we'll play with their spelling. Okay, so pentagon, the way they spell it, could be goat pon. There's those 5 stars. So we're looking at the word PON, P-O-N, passive optical network. A passive optical network is a fiber optic telecommunications technology for the delivering broadband network access to end customers. Its architectural implements to a point of multi-point topology, in which a single optical fiber serves multiple endpoints by using unpowered passive fiber optic splitters. You guys ever see all those fiber optics we see going on being put in the infrastructure lately? All of that, it's all about the bandwidth, it's all about frequencies. So that's the end plan, I think. The fiber bandwidth among multiple access points. Passive optical networks are often referred to as the last mile between an internet service provider, ISP, and its customers. So that's PON. There's your pentagon. There's your little labyrinth that they talk about. There's another angle. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you guys. So also quince. So the origin of the Spanish word. Let's see. So it has and is known to have been cultivated in ancient Babylon. It's interesting too. It says when the branches are new, they are tender, flexible, and highly resilient, just like membrane, like wicker. That's weird. Wow, we can also look at this word, Wicca, but we won't. Anyhow, we won't look at that. No, we won't. Let's not look at that. Pagan, pagan. That's a 5-pointed star, isn't it? Yeah, it's a pentagram, 5 points. Star, pentagram, pentagon. Pentagram, sometimes known as pentalpha, pentangle, or star pentagon. Babylonia. So a pentagram, sometimes known as a, I already read that, pentagrams were used symbolically in ancient Greece and Babylonia, and are used today as a symbol of faith by many Wiccans, akin to the use of the cross by the Christians. Pentagram has magical associations. Many people who practice neo-pagan faiths, wow. Okay, so penta, it's 5, and quince is 15, or 5, isn't it? So quince equals 15 in Spanish. Quince, I think, is the word. Quince, not quince, but quince. So that's 3 times 5. So do you guys remember this, the church fire, supposedly, I mean, the one that Trump did that walkthrough with? Yeah. Remember when he, let's see, the night before there was a raid. Now, I just want you to pay attention to this. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt myself, but see how he's being directed to go in front of this. See how he's standing in front of that billboard there, whatever that's called. Hang on. Okay, so watch this. I think, let's see. I think it's this guy here. One of these guys over here is going to direct Trump to come stand right in front of this billboard thing here at the church, which the night before well, they say it was burnt down in a raid, the mob. But just watch the hand signals. See that guy to the left? See how he directs him? So they want him to go right in front of that for some specific reason. So that kind of caught my eye. So hang on, I want to show you something. Okay, so here's a night before. This is May 31st, during that same protest. I think it's called St. John. Is it St. John's Church? It's considered the president's church. So, but see this billboard? I've got it on slow-mo right now. But this billboard, I actually took a screenshot of this. See if we can get it here. Oh gosh, it's blurry. So, anyhow, I'm going to show you something. Okay, you guys, you know what I'm going to do is, this video is getting so long, I'm actually going to start just a new video